What's going on, House Divided viewers? It's your resident Michigan fan, one half of the House Divided pod. Marcus back in the building, reviewing Michigan versus New Mexico State. Let's talk about it. Let's break it down. Before we get into that, though, like, share, subscribe as always. Catch us on Saturdays with the rest of the crew, Johnny, Mays, Maniac, Josh, for the big college football show at 11. We'll be doing that every Saturday while college football is going on this season. So you make sure you tune in to us on there. And then, throughout the week, we'll be here doing game reviews, pre-games, any other type of college football content here on the House Divided. So tune in and let's get to it. Let's have a great season. So first and foremost, we will start with the most pressing matter of the week. We got our starting quarterback named on Sunday. Will be Bryce Underwood, the talented freshman, star-studded guy, number one recruit in the country of the 2025 class. What am I looking to get from the youngster in game one? I will tell you, and it's really not all that complicated. It'll be very simple. You ready? 0 turnovers. Keep us on schedule. That's it. That's it. That is all I'm looking for the kid. That's all I want to see. I want to see protection of the ball. I want to see picking up first downs. I want to see not getting in the way. Honestly, that's all I really want to see. I want to see the kid not be an issue for the offense. Now, if he begins to light the world on fire, hang on to your seats. Hang on to your seats. But just as a realistic step one for a starting true freshman quarterback, keep the ball on our side. Keep us ahead of the chains when we ask you to, because I think most of that's going to be on the offensive line and the talented backfield that we got with Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall. But for the most part, what I would like to see Bryce Underwood do is just to keep us on schedule. Don't be a game manager. If you see a pass downfield that's open, take it. Take it. Take your opportunities when they come. But I don't want to see him pressing, if that makes sense. I don't want him going above and beyond trying to make plays that aren't there, trying to prove that he's the guy. Get into this. Let's get into the game and get into it the way that we're supposed to be. I would be expecting the same thing from a third year JJ McCarthy. Like, let's stay ahead of the chains. Let's make plays when you're asked to make plays. And first and foremost, hang on to the ball. Keep the ball on our side. I think he does that. It unlocks everything else for this offense. If he's able to play responsibly and keep the ball on our side, the rest of everything else will fall into place beautifully. I'll be interested to see how much they run him with us having Oklahoma next week. But yeah, definitely something I'm looking at. I'm also looking to see how much they play, how much they use their play action this week. How much they actually dip into that well. I, for one, think that play action should skyrocket this season with Chip Lindsey and the amount of running that we'll be doing this season. But how deep into the well do they get with them, again, having the Sooners next week? How much do they show? So it'll be very interesting to see, how diligent they are running on first and second down and really not tipping their hand into what I assume they should be doing next week versus Oklahoma. But all in all, staying ahead of the chains is going to be paramount in any week with the young QB. So there are going to be some opportunities to take early shots there on early downs. I'd like to see him be able to take advantage of that if we can work in some play action. It sounds like from Tony Alford, we haven't really decided on, who's going to take the first snap at running back. I don't really think it matters. I think the lion's share of the offensive load will be shared by Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall on Saturday. Somebody who else has got to play a factor into that too on the outside, though, is Donovan McCulley, right? He's got to make himself available for Bryce when we need a on schedule type play to be made, a 3rd and 8, a second and long. We may have lost some yards on first down. Now we got to make some of it up. A 2nd and 10, 2nd and 12. Can you be that steadying force? I think that's what they brought Donovan McCulley in for. I think that's why Donovan McCulley transferred from Indiana. It wasn't like he was in a bad offensive situation there at Indiana, but he wasn't being pegged as the guy, the number one possession receiver. So, you know, do that here. Be that guy here. On the offensive line side, we got a couple surprise starters and Brady Norton. Well, not really a couple, really one surprise starter and then one guy who kind of held pat and held down his position for the start of the season. And Evan Link at left tackle. I think that you know, for him, it's a very obvious thing of what we need improvement on, and it's the pass blocking side of things. If he can be marginally better than what he was last year, I think this offensive line can be well improved. For Brady Norton over Nathan Afobe, I think he's got to prove that the physical part of things is not going to overwhelm him. You got to make sure that he's, physically ready for Big Ten ball. Which I mean, if he won the position, I guess that'll show very early. So two guys who maybe were some question marks coming into the season, getting the early nod. Be very interested to see how they hold up, even against a team like New Mexico, right? Like Brady Norton is coming up a level in football. Evan Link, even though this is not necessarily the level of competition he's going to see for the majority of the season, it will be good to see him, get into some pass sets and show how he's kind of improved technically. Even if the physical aspect of the game necessarily isn't as daunting this week. So those two guys are where I'll be looking, and then even in spot time, if there's a lull or we're obviously, I think everybody's going to play. A lot of people are going to play in this game. When we do see Nathan Afobe or we do see a Blake Frazier, how do those guys perform? Right? Are they continuing to push? Is this a thing where the job's already won, or are we still competing? Which is probably leaning towards the latter over the former. So, couple places I'll be looking there. Andrew Sprague seems to have, locked down the right side. Giovanni Elhadi is kind of solidified into his thing. Greg Crippen, same thing. So really just those couple spots on the on the right guard and left tackle side of things where we have the most questions. So I'll be looking at that intently on the offensive line. Those running backs, receivers, Samaj Morgan, Channing Goodwin, a surprise starter. Um, really looking for them to leave their mark this year, right? Like these are guys working into their 3rd year at Michigan, seems to have established themselves. We mentioned the Donovan McCulley becoming a number one, but there's still going to be slack there where we need playmakers. And so Channing, Samaj obviously being the guy that he is, you look to those guys to kind of step up and be in that role. I'm still not sleep on a guy like Kendrick Bell, who has the physical profile that's needed, who was injured going into the latter half of last season. So I think that he's primed to have one of those big leaps. But then again, it doesn't seem like that has necessarily come to fruition in camp. Either that or Channing Goodwin's just had that much better of an offseason. We'll see when they both get an opportunity to step on the field. But that's outside of maybe the tight ends. When I saw a depth chart, I think somebody has Zach Marshall in front of Hogan Hansen, which was interesting. But again, we'll see who they roll out there first, outside of Marlon Klein on Saturday. Switching over to the defensive side, you've got as deep as a defensive line room than as you can wish for. I think that between Trey Pierce, man, what was the guy? We got from Trey Williams, Trey Pierce, Ikawana, at a I mean, the names just go on and on of guys that can play inside there. Rayshawn Benny, excuse me, who could forget Rayshawn? And then you're stepping up at edge, right? Same thing. We've got elder statesmen, and we've got depth guys. You've got your Derek Moore, TJ guy, guys who've waited their turn, right? I think a lot of the lack of production, if you can even call it that, from um, Derek Moore, really could be chalked up to the fact that a lot of it went to the inside guys. And it's not that he wasn't doing his job, like he wasn't in phase in the lane he's supposed to be in an adequate amount of time. If you've got two first round talents in there in the middle, getting there a little just a hair faster, that's a good enough excuse for me, for you to be primed for a big explosion when those guys move on. So him, TJ Guy is a guy who's really waited his turn, a guy who really could have transferred 2 seasons ago and gotten some pretty good playing time elsewhere. Didn't set his time out, waited at Michigan, has a chance to really improve his draft stock this season. Um, and that's not even to mention the guys behind him and Cam Brandt and Dominic Nichols, right? Like two talented young guys, uh, really looking to make a step. And this makes me think of 2021, where we just kind of had a army of edge rushers. You had Bray McGregor, you had number 32 outside linebacker. And for some reason, I'm having trouble bringing up his name right now. But you had those two, and then behind them, you still had guys like a Isaiah Stewart. You still had Derek Moore, who was still mixing in there. You had a lot of guys who were kind of brigading through there. I believe this is 22 that I'm referencing now. 21 was Aiton and a Jabo. But um, one of those years after Aiton and Jabo, obviously you had the two first rounders where you just have depth. It's kind of likening what we got now, where it's not so much on any individual guy along that front four or the front five, depending on what set we're in. um, it's kind of like committee in depth in waves, right? So now, whereas a few years ago, where you can maybe trap a guy like Mike Moe on the field, you can trap Mason Graham into a certain position even last year. When he's not playing nose, if he's playing outside for some reason, you can get him stuck on the field. I don't think that is an opportunity that teams are going to have this year. Like, good luck trying to set a certain set of 4 or 5 guys on the field at a time and making them stay there, because not only are they multifaceted, but I believe they've got multiple guys at each position. See, there were point in times along the building of this defense where you were kind of mixing and matching guys into positions they may not be naturally set for. I think now we're finally at a spot where you have 2, maybe even 3 noses on this squad. You have 2 3 techs, you have 2 5 techs. You've got legitimate bookends 2 deep on the edge. Linebacker, right? This is a very scary linebacker room. This is a scary linebacker room, because not only do you have 2 of the most talented inside guys in the conference, and Jay Sean Barham and Ernest Hausman, guys have played a ton of football. But right behind them, you've got guys like Jimmy Roller, who are finally healthy and probably should be a starting linebacker somewhere in the league. But again, just like TJ Guy didn't leave, set his time, and now he's still even behind talented guys. And then you hear a lot about a guy like Cole Sullivan, who they just really can't find a place for, so they're just going to let him play middle. He's going to play Will. Um, so many guys at other places where he would, be eating up time. Let's make him a backup Will, right? So, and haven't said anything about the freshman and Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng. So any combination of those 5 guys out there at a time, I think that they're very confident about right now. The coaching staff, meaning even the team, you hear a lot of a mention of of those guys when they talk defense. So really our front seven, I'm completely confident in, and I would rank them up versus anybody in the Big Ten right now. This back half is where we're going to get a lot of questions. Don't know if New Mexico is really going to be able to challenge us in that way to answer, but for sure in week 2 we will have those answers. Seeming like Zeke's going to start out at corner with Jair, which is cool. I like the way that Zeke equated himself out on the boundary last year. Really interested to see how much they play Shamari, which I think he'll play a lot. Right, they're going to do a lot of rotating and on the defense in general, but especially in the secondary. Uh, Looks like TJ Metcalf's getting that start at the nickel. Love the idea of having a bigger nickel back in there. They're gonna be putting your boy Jaden Mangum seems like out at free safety. So a little bit of a different combination, but like the idea of keeping a bigger guy in the box closer to the line of scrimmage as a DB. Endless possibilities of what he can end up doing from that position. So all in all, man, I think that we should have a good day. Hope we get out healthy. Hope we get out not having to exert ourselves too much. We got a long way down to Norman next week. So let's get out. Let's get out early. Let's get Jaden Davis in there as soon as we possibly can. And let the freshmen and the backups get depth, get burned, because the sooner we can tie this game up in the first half, the better. So you let me know what you thought about the breakdown of the game on the New Mexico side. I'm not trying to down them too much. I know they've got some pass catchers that they're bringing in that they're very excited about, some new additions to the defensive secondary that they're excited about. So, if all ends up well, they'll give us enough of a look to be able to gauge where we truly are. But we'll leave it at that, and we'll see y'all Saturday at the kickoff show. Like, share, and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you with another one. Appreciate you.